The Galactic Council Hall floated above a dying red star. Its light filled the glass walls with a soft, burning glow that made every shadow seem alive. Inside, the most powerful beings of the galaxy gathered: kings, warlords, scientists, and diplomats from 100 species. Their voices mixed into a low hum, a sound like a storm of whispers. At the center of the great chamber stood Commander Elias Grant, the only human in the hall. He wore a dark Earth Alliance uniform, clean and simple, without any shining medals. His hands were behind his back, his face calm. But inside he was preparing for war. Not the kind with weapons, but with words. Humanity had joined the Galactic Union only 10 years ago. To most aliens, they were newcomers, a small, noisy species from a forgotten blue planet. Some saw them as brave. Most saw them as dangerous. And today, humanity was on trial. The Council accused humans of destroying an entire pirate fleet, and with it, several Vashari warships. The incident had shocked the galaxy. No one understood how a species so young could defeat ships that had ruled the stars for centuries. At the head of the chamber sat High Chancellor Voth, a creature of glass and smoke. Its many eyes glowed faintly. "Commander Elias Grant of Earth," it said, its voice echoing like breaking ice. "You stand before this council to answer for the Desolation incident. Do you admit that your people used a forbidden weapon?" Grant looked up. "No, Chancellor.
Humanity used nothing forbidden."
We defended ourselves against an invasion." The hall erupted into chaos. Angry alien voices filled the air. Some shouted in their own languages, others in the common tongue. Words like liar and warmonger echoed across the walls. Grant didn't move. He knew they hated him. He also knew most of them had never fought for anything real. "Silence," the Chancellor ordered, and the hall quieted again. "You claim defense. Yet 300 ships vanished near your colony world. We found only glass and twisted metal. What kind of defense leaves such destruction?" Grant opened his mouth to speak. But before he could answer, the great metal doors at the end of the hall hissed open. A cold wind swept through the chamber. Every voice stopped. Heavy boots echoed across the polished floor. The guards standing by the wall stiffened but didn't dare raise their weapons. Slowly, through the doorway, walked Admiral Serana Vex of the Vashari Dominion, a name that carried both fear and respect across the stars. She was tall, wearing silver and black armor that seemed alive with faint blue light. Her eyes were bright like liquid metal, cold and sharp. Her very presence made the air feel heavier. The aliens began whispering again. "Serana Vex? She shouldn't be here. She's from the Dominion. They don't answer to the Council." The Chancellor tried to speak, but Serana didn't stop walking. She moved with calm confidence until she stood only a few steps away from Grant. The hall fell silent again. Then, she raised her hand and pointed directly at him. "I came for him." Gasps spread through the chamber. The Chancellor's glass body flickered. "Admiral Vex," it said sharply, "this meeting is not for—" "Be silent," she interrupted, her voice strong but smooth. "I am not here for your permission." The guards shifted uneasily. No one dared move. Even Grant could feel the tension growing. He had never seen the legendary admiral in person, but her reputation was enough. The woman who commanded fleets that crushed rebellions and silenced empires. Serana's eyes stayed locked on him. "You're the one who destroyed my fleet," she said. "And I'm here to know how." Grant blinked slowly. Around him, the aliens began murmuring again. Some were eager to see him punished. Others were afraid of what might come next. "I destroyed your fleet?" Grant asked quietly. "I thought they were pirates." "They were mine," she said coldly. 300 ships. Gone in minutes. My captains called for help. And then nothing, her words hung in the air. Grant's stomach tightened. He remembered that day. The alarms, the screaming voices over the radio, the blinding light from orbit. But the Vashari fleet hadn't been supposed to be there. They had entered human space unannounced, chasing pirates who had attacked one of their convoys. The humans had warned them to retreat. They didn't listen. The result had been disaster. "I didn't know your ships were involved," Grant said. "You attacked a human colony without warning." "We defended ourselves." "You call that defense?" she asked softly, her voice sharp as a blade. "You turned space itself into fire." Grant took a deep breath. "We used what we had." She studied him carefully. For a long moment, no one spoke. The light from the dying star reflected on her armor like a slow heartbeat. Then, to everyone's surprise, she lowered her hand. "Guards, the Chancellor began. Seize. Serana raised her hand again, stopping them with a single gesture. Touch him, she said coldly, and I'll declare war. The entire room froze. Even the Chancellor fell silent. Every delegate stared at her in disbelief. Was this a threat? A challenge? No one dared to move first. Grant felt his heart pound. He didn't understand. She had every reason to hate him, yet she was stopping them from arresting him. What do you want, Admiral? He asked quietly. Her gaze softened just slightly. Answers. She turned toward the council. You all sit here pretending to understand war. You send ships to die while you count the stars from your safe stations. But this human, he did something no one else has done. He faced death, and he won. The Chancellor's many eyes blinked rapidly. He broke the laws of warfare. He used power forbidden since the Cataclysm. Then maybe your laws are wrong, Serana said calmly. Maybe you're all afraid of what happens when someone stops bowing to you. Murmurs grew louder. Some delegates shouted for her to leave. Others looked at her with awe. Grant stood silent, watching her. He didn't understand her game, but he could tell she wasn't lying. She truly wanted to know how humans had done it. Finally, the Chancellor's voice cracked through the noise. This is not the place for your drama, Admiral Vex. You have no authority here. Authority? She repeated, almost smiling. I command fleets that could burn this hall from orbit. My authority is the only reason your council still exists. The room fell quiet again. Then she turned back to Grant. You'll come with me. Grant raised an eyebrow. And if I refuse? Then the council will hang you, she said plainly. And I won't stop them next time. He looked around the chamber. The delegates were watching like vultures, waiting to see if the human would resist. If he refused her offer, he'd die here. If he went with her, he'd walk straight into the hands of the most feared woman in the galaxy. He smiled faintly. Well, he said, I've never been a fan of easy choices. Serana's eyes glimmered. Then perhaps you are human after all. She turned sharply and began walking back toward the doors. Two of her armored guards entered, silent and precise. She didn't look back when she said, Follow me, Commander. Grant hesitated only for a moment. Then he stepped forward, his boots echoing across the silent floor. No one in the council dared stop him. As he walked out of the hall, the whispers began again, some angry, some afraid. Others filled with something new, curiosity. When the doors closed behind them, the Chancellor exhaled in frustration. What is she doing? One delegate asked. Whatever she wants, another replied. And now so does he. The corridor outside the council chamber was dark and quiet. Serana led the way, her cloak flowing behind her. Grant followed, his mind full of questions. Finally, he spoke. Why save me? She didn't stop walking. Because, she said, I saw the wreckage myself. No weapon I know could have done that. Not even ours. I want to understand what your people built. Grant frowned. You think I'll just tell you? She looked over her shoulder, her silver eyes catching the red light from the star. No, I think you'll show me. They reached a small docking bay where her warship waited, sleek, black, and shaped like a blade. Its engines hummed softly like something alive. Grant stopped. If I go with you, he said, I want one promise. Serana turned fully to face him. Name it. That no harm comes to Earth. She studied him for a long moment, then nodded once. You have my word, Commander. Grant stared at her hand as she extended it. Slowly he took it. Her grip was strong, her skin cold like steel. As they boarded her ship, the red star burned dimmer behind them. Inside the council chamber, chaos spread as news of the Admiral's act went out across the galaxy. By the time the Sovereign Blade jumped to light speed, every power in the galaxy already knew. The warship Sovereign Blade glided through the darkness of space like a silent predator. Its hull shimmered faintly under the light of distant stars, and inside, the air carried a low hum, the steady rhythm of power running through ancient Vashari engines. Commander Elias Grant sat in a small observation room. Beyond the glass window, he could see the endless black void stretching forever. He had been on alien ships before, but this one felt different. It was too perfect, too quiet. Even the air seemed to move with purpose. For 2 days he had been a guest, or perhaps a prisoner, of Admiral Serana Vex. She had not questioned him yet. Instead, she let him walk around the ship, watched by silent guards in black armor. She wanted him to see the Vashari way, Their discipline, their precision, their pride. He could feel the crew's eyes on him whenever he passed. They looked at him with curiosity and fear. To them, he was the man who destroyed their fleet, the human who somehow defeated the undefeatable. The meeting. The door to the room opened with a soft hiss. Serana stepped in, her silver eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. "Commander Grant," she said, "I hope my hospitality has been acceptable?" He looked at her calmly. "Better than I expected." "I'm still breathing." A small smile touched her lips. "Good. Come with me." They walked through the corridors together. The halls were filled with strange symbols carved into the metal, ancient Vashari writing that pulsed softly with blue light. The ship's crew saluted as they passed. Some bowed their heads, others simply moved out of the way. Finally, they entered a chamber filled with holographic screens. Images of planets, ships, and energy readings floated in the air. Serana stopped beside a large table. A hologram appeared above it, the wreckage of hundreds of ships frozen in space. The image rotated slowly, showing melted hulls twisted together like broken glass. "This is what's left of my fleet," she said quietly. 300 vessels, thousands of lives, gone in minutes. We found no radiation, no weapon signature, no trace of life. Grant stared at the image. He remembered it all too well. The blinding light, the scream of his ship's engines, and the moment silence fell after the impossible happened. "You use something that bends the laws of physics," Serana continued, "something that shouldn't exist." Grant didn't answer. She turned to him. "Tell me what it was." He met her gaze. "A mistake," she frowned. "A mistake does not erase fleets from existence." He sighed and walked closer to the hologram. "We didn't plan to fight your ships. You entered human space without warning. We sent calls, messages, warnings. No one answered. Our colony was under attack. I had to act. You used the weapon," she said. He nodded slowly. "The Aegis array." Serana's eyes narrowed. "Explain." Grant took a deep breath. "The Aegis array was built to protect colonies from asteroid strikes and solar flares. It manipulates gravity, creates a field strong enough to deflect matter. But that day, something went wrong. The pirates in your fleet were caught inside its radius. When I triggered it, the field collapsed inward, and everything inside was crushed into molten glass." The Admiral stared at the image again. "You created a singularity." "It wasn't supposed to happen," he said softly. "We tried to shut it down, but the energy spiraled out of control. I saved the colony, but killed thousands. I've been trying to live with that ever since." For a long moment, Serana said nothing. The sound of the ship's engines filled the silence. Finally, she asked, "Do your people know what you've built?" "Only a few," he replied. "We kept it hidden. The Council would call it a war crime. But without it, Earth would have fallen years ago." She turned toward him. "And now the Council believes you're a threat. Let them," Grant said. "We never wanted their approval." The revelation. Serana walked around the table, studying the image of destruction. "Do you know why I'm not your enemy, Commander?" Grant looked at her carefully. "I'm still trying to figure that out." "Because I saw what you did," she said, "and I understood what it meant. You did not fight for conquest. You fought to survive. You fought with desperation, the kind of courage that makes empires tremble." He gave a small, tired laugh. "Desperation isn't courage. It's fear." "Maybe," she said. "But fear is what makes warriors act when logic fails." She tapped a control on the table. Another image appeared. A fleet of alien ships gathering near the galactic rim. "These are not mine," she said. "They belong to the Council's Peace Coalition. They claim to be investigating Earth's technology, but I know what that means. They plan to invade before you can use the Aegis again." Grant's jaw tightened. "They think they can scare us." "They don't plan to scare you," Serana said. "They plan to erase you." Grant stepped closer to the hologram. "And you brought me here to warn me?" She shook her head. "No. I brought you here to ask for something." He raised an eyebrow. "And what's that?" "An alliance." He stared at her, uncertain if he had heard correctly. "You want to fight with us?" "Yes," she said simply. "My dominion is fractured. Many of my people blame me for losing the fleet. The Council wants my head. If I stand with you, I have a chance to rebuild my honor. And maybe, together, we can stop what's coming." Grant studied her face. He could see no lie in her eyes, only determination, and maybe a trace of guilt. You're serious, he said. Completely. He looked at the hologram again, at the growing fleets. If they come for Earth, millions will die. Unless we stop them first, she said. Grant thought for a moment. Then he asked, What's in it for you, Admiral? Revenge? She smiled faintly. Understanding. You see, I've fought 100 wars, but I've never seen anything like what your people did. You achieved the impossible. I want to know what kind of species does that and why. The test hours later, Serana brought Grant to another chamber deep inside the ship, a long hall filled with glowing machines and hovering drones. It looked like a laboratory, but older, built from both metal and crystal. This is the vortex chamber, she said. It allows us to study gravitational patterns. Show me how your Aegis works. Grant hesitated. I can't give you human military secrets. I'm not asking for blueprints, she replied. Just show me what happened, he sighed. Fine. He touched the control screen and a projection filled the room. A simulation of the battlefield above New Carthage. Dozens of ships surrounded a single human station. Bright arcs of plasma filled the void. Then a wave of light spread outward from the planet, bending everything around it. Ships folded inward like paper, disappearing into a storm of light. The simulation ended in silence. Serana stood motionless, eyes wide. It's beautiful, she whispered. And terrible. Grant nodded slowly. That's why we hit it. Can you control it now? She asked. He looked down. Barely. The Aegis array takes more energy than we can handle. It's like holding a sun with your bare hands. Serana walked closer. Then we must find a way to control it. Because if the Council learns to copy it before you do, humanity is finished. Her words hit him like a weight. You think they'll try? They already are, she said. And they'll use it without mercy. Shared truths that night, Grant stood again in the observation room. Outside, the stars seemed peaceful, hiding the chaos to come. He wondered how Earth would react if they knew he was working with an alien warlord. Serana entered quietly and stood beside him. For a long time, they said nothing. You've seen many wars, he said finally. Do they ever end? She looked out at the stars. No, but sometimes they change form. Sometimes enemies become something else. Friends? He asked. She smiled faintly. Survivors, Grant nodded. That's good enough for me. They stood together in silence, watching the slow dance of light beyond the glass. The signal. The calm didn't last. Moments later, alarms flashed red across the ship. A young officer rushed into the room. Admiral, we're detecting multiple warp signatures. 30 ships approaching fast. Serana's calm expression vanished. Identification? Council fleet. They've tracked us. Grant felt his heart drop. They're not wasting time. Serana gave quick orders. Evasive maneuvers. Power up the shields. Get the human to the command deck. When they reached the bridge, the view was chaos. Bright lines of energy filling the dark, flashes of weapons lighting the void. The Council fleet had surrounded them. They'll try to board us, Grant said. They'll try to destroy us, Serana replied. But they don't know who they're fighting. She turned to him. Can your Aegis array connect remotely? He hesitated. Maybe. Why? Her eyes gleamed. Because we're about to show them that humans are not prey. Grant sat at the console, linking his communicator to Earth's hidden defense network. The signal was weak, but it reached. Deep below the blue planet, buried machines began to wake. The Aegis satellites preparing for activation. Are you sure about this? He asked. Serana smiled. I came for you, Commander. Now let's make sure they never forget why. As the first Council missiles reached them, the stars themselves seemed to bend. A wave of invisible power surged outward, swallowing the enemy fleet in silence. Space rippled like water. And then, nothing. When the light faded, only Sovereign Blade remained. Grant leaned back, breathing hard. Serana looked at the empty void, her eyes filled with both awe and fear. What have we done? She whispered. Grant stared at the stars. We've started something the galaxy won't forget. The blue planet called Earth spun quietly in the dark, unaware that hundreds of alien fleets were already on the move toward it. Far above the solar system's edge, the stars began to shimmer, warships dropping out of warp, their engines glowing like dying suns. Every major galactic power was represented. The Council Armada, proud and cruel, had come with one goal: to end humanity before it could rise any higher. And on the other side of the void, Between the Armada and the little planet, two figures stood on the bridge of the Vishari warship Sovereign Blade, Commander Elias Grant of Earth and Admiral Serana Vex of the Vishari Dominion. Both stared at the incoming storm of ships in silence. The calm before the fire, Serana's voice was quiet but firm. They're bringing everything they have. 60 fleets. They intend to wipe your world from existence. Grant folded his arms. Then we give them a reason to regret it. She turned to him. Even with my fleet, we can't hold that many. The moment they reach orbit, Earth will burn. Grant's eyes hardened. Then we stop them before they reach orbit. He looked down at the console. The faint blue lines of the Aegis array pulsed on the display. Humanity's last weapon, still orbiting far above the planet. Its power was immense but dangerous. Firing it again could destabilize Earth's orbit. We can't use the Aegis fully, he said. If we push it too far, the gravity field could tear the planet apart. Serana studied the readouts. Then we use it just enough. Grant raised an eyebrow. You're talking like a human now. Her silver eyes gleamed. I've been learning. The mobilization down on Earth, alarms echoed through every base, every station. The Terran Defense Command, humanity's hidden military network, came alive. From under oceans, from beneath ice caps, from deep mountain bunkers, ships began to rise. Sleek black vessels shaped like daggers broke through the clouds. Hundreds of smaller fighters followed, their engines burning white against the night sky. Across every screen on Earth, people saw the same broadcast and a message from Commander Grant. This is not the end of humanity. This is the day the galaxy learns what it means to fight for home. Billions watched in silence. Miners, engineers, children, and soldiers alike. For the first time, Earth was united by one cause. The invasion begins hours later. The first wave of alien ships entered the system. Their weapons lit up the darkness. Energy beams streaked across space, targeting Earth's defense line. Serana's fleet moved first. Her ships, sleek and curved like blades, dived into the enemy formation with perfect precision. The Sovereign Blade led the charge, its cannons cutting through alien hulls like fire through paper. Grant stood beside her, giving commands to the human ships over the comms. Squadron 6, flank left. Titan Group, fall back and charge the magnetic rails. His voice was steady, cold, focused. The sky above Earth became a storm of light. Explosions rippled across the void. The sound of energy cannons and railguns echoed through the comms. Status of the Aegis? Grant asked. Charging at 50%, replied the AI voice of the array. Warning, field instability detected. Serana looked at him. If it fails, I know, he said. But if we don't fire, Earth is gone. A choice of fire. Another explosion shook the Sovereign Blade. A blast had hit one of the ship's shields. Sparks filled the bridge. An officer shouted, Admiral! 2 of our wings are gone. Serana gritted her teeth. Pull back the wounded ships. Regroup near the array's perimeter. Grant turned toward the holographic map. The enemy fleet was spreading wide, forming a massive ring around Earth. They wanted to box humanity in, crush them from all sides. But Grant saw something they didn't. They're spreading too thin, he said. If we break through their center, we can split their formation. Serana nodded. You lead. I'll cover you, he smiled faintly. You trust me now? I wouldn't be here if I didn't. The 2 fleets, human and Vishari, moved as one. They cut through the enemy line, their weapons flashing bright. Alien ships exploded in waves of light, scattering debris like burning stars. For every human ship lost, 2 enemies fell. But still, the Armada pressed forward. The fall of the Titan. Suddenly, a massive shadow appeared on the sensors. The Council Dreadnought, a ship larger than any human city. Its main cannon charged with energy powerful enough to pierce a planet's core. Serana's eyes widened. That cannon can destroy half your world in one shot. Grant clenched his fists. Then we stop it before it fires. He opened the comms. All wings, target the Dreadnought. Everything we have. The human fleet launched missiles, beams, and kinetic strikes, but the Dreadnought's shields held strong. Serana slammed her fist against the console. Its shields are regenerating too fast. Grant thought quickly. What's their power source? A fusion core inside the rear hull, she said. Grant smiled grimly. Then we go there. He turned to the pilot. Take us in close. The sovereign blade roared forward, weaving through explosions and enemy fire. It passed burning wrecks and broken ships, heading straight for the dreadnought's engine section. "Now," Sarana shouted. The ship's main cannon fired a blinding beam of energy. The shot hit the dreadnought's core dead center. For a moment, everything went white, then boom. The explosion tore through the massive ship. Fragments spun out like glowing meteors. The Council fleet fell into chaos. Grant shielded his eyes from the blast. "That should slow them down," Sarana smirked. "Remind me never to underestimate humans again." The final strike, but it wasn't over. Dozens of smaller enemy fleets were still approaching. The Aegis Array's charge reached its limit. The AI voice echoed through the bridge. "Aegis ready to fire. Warning, planetary gravity at risk. Firing may destabilize orbit." Grant's hands hovered over the console. "If we fire, we might destroy Earth." Sarana looked at him. "And if you don't, there will be no Earth left to destroy." He closed his eyes. For a moment, he saw the faces of his people. The children watching from the cities, the soldiers fighting in the sky, the world that had always believed it was small. Then he opened his eyes. "Do it!" The Aegis Array activated. A wave of pure light spread across the system, silent, unstoppable. Every enemy ship caught in its range began to twist and melt, their gravity fields collapsing inward. It was beautiful and terrifying all at once, and like the universe itself taking a breath. When the light faded, silence returned. The void was clear. The alien fleets were gone, but so was part of the Aegis system, burned out completely. Aftermath. For a long moment, no one spoke. The bridge was filled with quiet breathing and the soft hum of systems trying to recover. Then Sarana smiled faintly. "You did it, Commander." Grant looked at her tiredly. "We did it," she nodded. "The galaxy won't forgive this." "They don't have to," he said. "They just have to remember it." Below them, Earth shone blue and bright, alive. The people of the planet looked up that night and saw strange lights dancing in the sky. Some called them auroras. Others whispered it was the souls of the fallen. But everyone knew one thing. Humanity had stood against the galaxy and survived. The return to the Council weeks later, the Galactic Council gathered once again. The chamber was silent when Sarana entered, and this time, she wasn't alone. Elias Grant walked beside her. The same delegates who had once called for his execution now whispered his name in fear and respect. Sarana's boots echoed through the hall. She walked straight to the Chancellor's throne. The Chancellor's glass body flickered nervously. "Admiral Vex, Commander Grant, you stand here after violating every law of war known to this council." Sarana smiled coldly. "Those laws are written by those who've never fought to survive." Grant stepped forward. His voice was calm but powerful. "We didn't start this war. You did, when you decided humanity didn't deserve to exist. But now you know what happens when you push us." No one dared to speak. Sarana pointed at him and said, "I came for him, not as an enemy, but as proof that humanity deserves its place among the stars." The words echoed through the hall. For a moment, no one moved. Then slowly, one delegate began to clap. Another joined. Soon the entire chamber filled with the sound of applause, not for fear, but respect. A new dawn as they left the chamber. Sarana looked at him. "You've changed everything, Grant. The galaxy will never see humans the same way again." He smiled faintly. "Good. Maybe they'll think twice before underestimating us." She nodded. "What will you do now?" He looked out toward the stars beyond the glass walls. "We rebuild, we heal, and we prepare, because peace never lasts forever." Sarana's lips curved into a small smile. "Then I'll be there when the next war comes." He glanced at her. "As an ally?" "As a friend," she said softly. They stood together in the quiet glow of the red star, watching the endless void that had once divided them. The galaxy had changed. Humanity had proved its worth, not through conquest, but through courage, and across the stars, stories began to spread. Tales of a small species that stood tall when the universe tried to break them. They called them humans.